as we're setting up the foundation for a series that we're going to start in a couple weeks. We'll be talking about light. Of course, we've been talking about salt and light being Christians that are attractive, that draw people to the Lord and Savior. It is not about us. It is about Him. I was thinking, catch fire, pass it on, like that song, very good. I remember that back a long time ago. But I was thinking of my brother one time. He had stole one of the cigarettes from my aunt, and he knew that he better hide it, and so he was up under the bed. And he lit that thing up under the bed and about burned the house down. And, you think of it and you think, it only takes a spark. And sometimes even a church needs a spark. Used to, when I first got saved, about every message I heard as far as youth had something to do with being on fire for the Lord. Y'all remember hearing sermons like that? And it seems like now, it talks about in the Bible, so that a few are called, some are chosen, and I think, the church today is more like, a few are cold and some are frozen. I mean, it's a lot different now, but I don't know if y'all realize it or not, but we come to worship a God who has all power to help, to encourage, to strengthen, and to save. Y'all know that? All right. Well, we look sometimes like we're at the dentist office waiting to get teeth work done, and it's like, it's amazing sometimes when we just start thinking about a couple things here with our title today, Luminous Christians, or part 2 to Luminous Light. And so I put it to more use today by putting Luminous Christians, because y'all remember what luminous means? Bright, well lit, okay? And so Christians, I don't think we've ever lived in a day in America. I had to say this for America, because there are people who are dying for their faith all across the world. I don't know if we all know that or not, but there are people hiding because their life is at risk. But I don't think, not since I've been saved, I know, there's never been a time where there are more Christians ashamed of their faith. Well, I can't say anything. Well, I don't want to offend anybody. Now, that ain't it. Because y'all talk politics all the time. Most offensive thing on the planet is politics. I mean, but we don't mind that, do we? Whoever you like, you're going to tell people on that. I mean, that's just the way it is on that. But it's I just don't think I should share the gospel with anybody. Where's that at in the Bible? The church has gotten so used to not offend. Let me tell you, sinners are not ashamed to stick it right in our face. Let's keep hiding it. And then they're going to be doing it on our property. You see what I'm saying? Because we supposedly Christian nation, right? Post-Christian nation's what we're calling it now. But you see, majority of people go to some kind of church, right? Where's the influence at? And that's because a lot of people sitting in a church pew are not saved. They have never asked Jesus Christ into the Lord and believed that He is who He says He is. Now, I've been in trouble before, and I'm going to tell you, when you get in trouble, you'll start talking any way you can to get out of it. Y'all been there? Dear Lord, if you'll get me out of this, I'll live for you. But what happens here is, on the day-to-day thing, are we shining our light? Our light would be our testimony here. When you start thinking about this and start looking at it, testimony is a solemn statement made under oath. Put your right hand on the Bible and repeat after me. Y'all heard that before? Man, that's in America, right? Well, now they can swear on anything, just letting you know. I know it's probably disappointing to you, but they don't have to use the Bible now. But you start thinking about it. I swear to God. You ever heard anybody say that? Sometimes they might be lying if they do that. But we're trying to emphasize the truth. We are an eyewitness. We always tell people, used to churches, they went out on Thursday night visitation. Do y'all used to do that? That got offensive. We're embarrassed to do it now. Yeah. Then people just don't want to do it anymore either. But, I mean, we can make... You ever notice we come up with excuses for stuff but, just hard to do? We just find reasons not to do it. But here we are. A testimony. That means something that serves as evidence. Is there any evidence? If we got arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to send us to jail? Well, I go to church. I told Bible study this morning with a young adult. Well, you know what? You can take your car and park it in the repair shop for 6 months if you want to, but it ain't doing no good sitting there. And so I think from time to time, it's just like anything, our Christian life needs a little maintenance. Our bulb, you ever had a flashlight go out? At our house, I think people just sit around and play with them all the time because every time you need a flashlight, they're dead. I'm not looking at Morgan. But if you ever see, when it's like when you need it, it's not there. So let me ask you this question before we go on for our testimony. Does the world need Christians right now? And where are we? It's time to show up. And so when we start looking at this, and we say a testimony, okay? When we start thinking about it, are you real? Am I real? Am I authentic? And that's why I don't know. There's a lot of things people say about me, some behind my back, some to my face. But usually somebody will say, like him, love him, hate him, he is what he is. I am the same everywhere. If I put on the dog, it ain't for long, okay? I remember I was president of the Mississippi Association of Christian Schools. I went to this big conference, and I was meeting some big shots at the Washington, and we were going to go by and see some senators and tell them how they needed to vote. And so, I'm flying. I'm going to be flying most of the day, so I was comfortable. I was in blue jeans and a collared shirt. And I got off the plane. I went out there, and they have the cards, and they had one that said Mr. Wright. And so, anyway, I went over to it and said, hey, how you doing? And I was just standing there for about 30 minutes waiting on another guy. Nobody talked to me. I did notice, though, while I was waiting and nobody's talking to me, that everybody had three-piece suits on and these long coats that cost like $400 for the weather. They were sharp. And I had this little windbreaker, on, and I was comfortable, but fixing to be cold when I went outside. And I thought, well, I hadn't put my suit clothes on. So anyway, the guy come, and there's another one waiting on, and this guy was blind. He talked up a storm to me. None of these other guys, most of them preachers, big shots in education, didn't talk to me. Nothing. 25 minutes. Blind man just saying blah 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 blah. He's just talking up a storm. And I started to say, if you had eyes, you shouldn't be talking to me because nobody else in this group is. They look so solemn and so spiritual, and I thought. And so then, after the guy came, and they said, now we're only waiting on one more. Get this. Y'all ready for this? Miss Sanders, you're going to get a kick out of this one. We're waiting on Mr. Right. I've been there 30 minutes. I didn't identify, because every one of them, even the blind man, his wife must have dressed him good because they all had on these big black coats. And it's like, I'm me. I do me pretty good. I can't do somebody else. But the church is doing somebody else instead of church. Y'all see what I'm saying? We are not shining the light like we need to. When you're talking about a testimony, that means every chance, everything that happens is a test for you to shine the light. Do we fail? Do we pass? Nobody's 100% except Jesus. So let's look here at a couple things, and basically what we're going to do is give the 3 points right at the beginning and then just talk a little bit about these situations. Let me tell you, if we're going to shine our light, there's a change of conduct in verse 15. Let's go ahead and read 15, Matthew 5, 15, and 16. Let's go ahead and read all of them right now because we did 14 last week. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be what? Church is hiding pretty good, right in plain sight. We've got hide and seek down. Number 15. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel. And in Randall's case, if you go to Mark, it says under the bed. So I always remind him of that one. Put it on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto what? All that are in the house. The sad thing in America today is that the worst testimony and the worst light that people have is at home. You'll talk to people, well, you know, what do you think about here? What do you think about that? And it's like, well, there's too many hypocrites. People go to church, and they act like the devil when they're home. Look at verse 16. Let your light so shine before men. Well, I don't want to draw too much attention to myself. We ain't doing it for ourselves. Who are we drawing attention? Jesus. That they may what? Well, I don't like to be seen. What are we supposed to be doing? See your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Dear Father, I pray, God, that you would have your way with this message. Help us, Lord, to leave here shining our light bright, Lord, not hiding it, Lord. Help us to know, Lord, and especially next week we'll be talking a little more, Lord, about knowing for sure that we have the light in us. We have that spark that we can spread, Lord. And Lord, I pray, God, you would help us now. In Jesus' name, amen. A change of conduct. A real miracle of darkness. From time to time, you'll see some sorry, wicked sinner turn their life over to Jesus and turn completely around. Heard one preacher saying, he said, man, I'm going to tell you what, this guy, he was announcing him to preach, and he said, man, this guy was a sorry, rotten sinner until Jesus came into his life and he did a complete 360. I thought, that means he went back to doing what he was doing before. 180, buddy, 180. 180. And it was like, you ever notice people say stuff like that, and they don't catch themselves in there? I'm sure I do too, but it's just funny. But let me tell you something. When you get saved, it should change your conduct. Belief should affect your behavior. As we read last week with Gallup poll, there is absolutely no difference in the behaviors and attitudes of a church person in America than they are non-church people. That hurts, don't it? But we're pretty judgmental. Why are we judgmental? Because we just like them. And I tell you, we can make a note to try to do what's right. I'm telling you, personally, I have tried to be perfect, okay? And I'm going to tell you, it's pretty stressful, okay? But it's better to try to follow Jesus, and then when you fall, call on Him immediately before you sink, okay? So when we start thinking about the real miracle of darkness, the change of conduct, I mean, Jesus can turn clay to salt, darkness to light. Ephesians 5:8 says, "For you were sometimes darkness." Y'all get that? But now, you are light in the Lord. Walk. Y'all hear this? Walk as children of light. As children of light. Wow, man. I mean, it's right there. And so, there's truth. That's what you're testifying of. We spend more time defending our sin and our situations than we do talking about Jesus. You see, what is our spiritual condition? You can see by the amount of light. Is Jesus luminescent around you? When you start putting truth and love, we live in a world where everybody says, well, love is the most important thing. Let me tell you, if there's no love without truth, then it's not going to matter. You see, the truth is always the truth. And love, even if we are sorry, rotten sinners, we still love someone. You see what I'm saying? But somewhere in the church around the 70s, 80s, I don't know when it happened, may have been before. I don't know, I wasn't saved back then. But before long, we got this thinking that we just need to love everybody and not say anything about their sin. But the thing is, how are they ever going to change? You ever heard, of somebody nagging about something? And sometimes we nag about dumb stuff. But are we sharing the light? Whether individually or the church? Jesus called us the salt of the earth. We're the light of the world. And there is a change from darkness to light. There's a real miracle of darkness, of that darkness turning to light, because the light illuminates it. And it will affect the change in conduct. The second one, the condition of civilization. If you look at it, it shouldn't be too hard to shine the light. Because we live in a dark world. It is a real message of decay. If you start looking, you will see the world is full of decay, darkness, and death. They go together. Sin brings death. Somehow we've watered that down even in the church. Well, my sin's not all that bad. Your sin is worse than my sin. All the time, being a preacher, there are people telling me, and they're always saying, well, so-and-so's doing this, and this. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you're doing this, and this different, something different. And what's the difference? You see, we love pointing out everybody else's sin, but we don't like looking at ours. That's why we need the light. Is it that hid in there? Decay and darkness go together. Let me remind you that the Mayans, the Babylonians, even the Egyptians to some extent, are extinct. Why? Because if you don't glorify God, individually, family, nation, God will destroy it. Okay? And it will, just like all these others. In Romans chapter 1, and I know I'm going to read that in just a minute, some of it. I don't know how much I want to read because of time, but I want to tell you something. I know that we don't have to read far here to find out how bad the world is, okay? And so, but when we get into it, I want to share something, though, before that, and that is that our belief should affect behavior. But the thing is, You can set a good example all day. And you can get mad that nobody's following it. But you do the good example for you, not necessarily them. You understand that? Because sometimes you'll quit if you do it. Oh, y'all ain't even, I did all this. A husband or wife can do something and it's like, I did all this and you didn't even notice. Well, you did it because you loved them, right? And so, but the thing is, I want to go ahead and read. I put down here several verses, so if you want to read some of these later, but 17 through 32, but let's just share a couple of them right here. Let's go with verse 17. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, that is written, the just shall live by faith. You want a brighter light? Live by more faith. Don't have it all planned out. Look at verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all what? Ungodliness and unrighteousness, who hold truth in unrighteousness. Man, that sounds like the country. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it to them. Let me tell you something. God even shows the person who's never heard the gospel, He shined His light to them. And you've got to respond to that light. God, nature, everything tells us there is a God. Look at verse 20. For the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead. And look at, y'all there? So, because God has shown light to everybody and people are not responding, but they have excuses, right? No, because it says right here in verse 20, so they are without excuse. There are churches all across this country right now that a gay preacher is preaching. There's churches all across this world. Preachers got up in the pulpit in adultery. Do we need to get to the church or just the preacher? I was getting a little nervous, so I put it on the preachers. Okay. We can appear like a light. What does it say? Oh, it's talking about Satan appearing like a light, ain't he? Wow. The world, the flesh, and the devil, and it's sitting here and it's working, and it's like, oh man. Look at verse 21. Because when they knew God, they glorified Him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish hearts was what? Darkened. Man, people have quit reading Romans chapter 1. Look at verse 22. Professing themselves to be wise, they become fools. Professing themselves to be Christians, professing themselves to be light, their darkness is what he's saying. Look at verse 23 if you want some details. And changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man, birds, four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Man, we worship all kinds of things. We just don't say it's worship. We even, we go out, man, I'm telling you, I've coached, played sports my whole life, man. Used to, back in the Bible days, they worship Baal. I tell them we still worship Baal, okay? They just spell it different, B-A-L-L. They got shrines all around. Y'all seen some of them? I remember growing up, man, we just had a pastor out there, man, had to watch out for cow patties and everything, and man, we got everything, man. They got to have the best. But a church can't raise money for nothing. I mean, the county budget, people starving, people being mistreated, but man, we're going to have some ball fields. I mean, you ever seen it? Look at verse 24. God gave them up to what? Uncleanness. Through the lust of their hearts to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. Who changed the truth of God into a lie. Man, you hear that? Dishonor their own bodies between themselves. Change the truth of God to a lie. Worship and serve the creature More than the Creator. Man, that sounds about like us, ain't it, in the world? For this cause God gave them unto vile affection. Even their women did change the natural use that is which against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. Whew. Should I go on? Let me tell you something. Except for the mind, everybody in here, man, say, amen, man, and men and men and women and women. Let me tell you something. Having sex outside of marriage, just as bad. You don't hear that much, OD. No. And see what happens here is the light, the darkness, and you sit right here. There is a condition in our civilization, and we go back to change of conduct. Well, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to be embarrassed. That miracle in darkness has turned back into civilization. Now look at point 3. A real master of design, a character for Christians. Our character. What are we known for? Well, if you're in trouble, will you lie? Your friends will know that. If you smash your finger, how are you going to talk? What are you going to do? Your light will shine, or the darkness will come out your lips and in your hands and feet. We're to be peculiar. We're to be different. Christians are to set a higher standard for life above death, decay, and darkness. We should be on fire for God. And we see, and we look at somebody that's on fire for God, and we think they're weird. And then we see people on the other, they're cold, they're going to hell. Which is weird because they're cold, but they're going to hell where it's fire, and we're on fire for the Lord. So it's not too good an analogy. You can get lost in it. But where's the church? Right in the middle. Let me remind you, right in the middle is lukewarm. Anybody know what Jesus said about lukewarm Christian? He'll vomit. Throw it up. Man. Because we are supposed to be on fire. If we are no different than the world, and you see these things in here, man, it is an honor to be able to carry the light. Look at 1 Corinthians 6, 19 and 20. What, know you not your body is a temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you? You're not your own, you're bought with a price. Woo! You're bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit which are God. He is the master, owner, ruler of our life. Sink, swim, live or die, are we living for Jesus and shining our light? Are we making a difference? Are we confident and courageous with our salt, which is character? Our light, which is our conduct. Will Jesus be glorified in us? Have we lost some of our saltiness? Is our light dim? Have we lost the plug? Maybe we're searching. We don't have time to go into it, but I put here in Mark chapter 9. Now we do have time for a little bit of it. It's a little heavy, okay? The people around us, if we don't shine the light, are going to go to hell. Y'all got that? And I think we lose that sometime. Look here in Mark chapter 9, verse 46. It says the same thing in Mark 9, 48. Where the worm dieth not and the fire is not quenched. It keeps burning and burning. It never stops. You're talking about light. You're talking about salt here. And look at this in verse 47. This is good light observation. If your eye offends thee, pluck it out. Y'all ever seen one-eyed Christian? One-armed Christian? You see, what happens, we still go to the same place. We do the same thing. And it's like, yes, it's figurative. You don't necessarily need to pluck out your eye. But it is better for you to go into the kingdom of God with one eye than having to go to hell with two eyes. Do y'all get that? We just kind of risk one eye, don't we? You heard that? I'm just going to risk one just in case the Lord takes it. Now, 48, 49, and 50. Now, 48 already told us, the worm dieth not, the fire is not quenched. Look at verse 49. For everyone shall be salted with fire, and every sacrifice shall be salted with salt. Salt in 950 says is good. But if the salt has lost its saltiness, where will it be seasoned? Have salt in yourself and have peace with one another. Why are churches fussing and fighting all the time? Let me tell you, the most argumentative, defensive people in the world are, I don't know if I can say it. Let me say something else before I say that. And let me see if I get enough nerve to say that. No. People are dying and going to hell. And the church, when we come to church, most people want the light on them. Preachers. Yeah. I remember a guy used to sing, Miss Mona, and he made me sick every time he sung, even though he was singing for Jesus. I'm serious. Because he would sing just like this, and I'm going to show y'all, and y'all might be sick too. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. You think he's talking about the Lord? He's like, I'm the best singer around here, and y'all need to realize that. So let me tell you. Most dangerous. Okay. Immature people. People that are insecure. They want more attention. And if somebody else gets it, they get offended. I'm going to tell you what, as a preacher, and watching this, some of you are listening if you follow me. I don't have time to babysit, especially on Sunday morning. I'm supposed to be focusing on a few things that might be important, okay? But I'm going to tell you, if you're not careful, everything's about you. Think for a minute. Can you shine your light if all you're trying to do is just get everybody else's attention that we're trying to shine the light? You ever notice that people who are busy stay busy, and the people who aren't doing anything, you couldn't get them moving for nothing. But if they pick up one thing, they're going to let you know they did it. You ever notice that? See, so what happens here is that's the way Christians have gotten. So as we close right here, do we have peace with one another? Are we light? Are we salt? I think I put on the sheet there, darkness is one thing, but intentional darkness is quite another. Do you know if you stay in the darkness long enough, you'll go blind? Do you think the church has gotten blind to a few things? It is one thing to be subject to darkness. It is another thing to choose to shelter underneath it. 1 Peter 2:9, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. There are lights that flood a room that reveals even that which is hidden. There are small lights that can guide the way. Light can move into the darkness. It can help with the lost. Who is lost? No one is so lost that they cannot be saved by the light of Jesus. It could be, even in the gospel, a light where a woman shines looking for a precious coin that she has dropped. It could be the light of a loving God who seeks to save. You see, we live in a world where coming to church don't cost us anything. 1 hour a week. And I'm a dedicated, sold-out Christian. 1 hour. Many don't read their Bibles, they don't pray, and they sure don't witness the light. Grandfather asked his granddaughter, he had twin granddaughters, and he asked them what they wanted for their birthday. And they said that they wanted a world, a globe. And old granddaddy said, I'll be finding a globe. And so he went in his store and he found a nice globe. Man, he got that thing. He waited. It was her birthday. And they opened it. And he was waiting for all the excitement because they'd been talking about a world that they could see everything in. And man, they were so excited. No, they weren't. They said, oh, it's nice. And like, what? Isn't that what you wanted? And they're like, yeah. And you could just tell something was missing with them. And he prodded them and they said, what's wrong with it? Did I get the wrong kind? What is it? They said, well, Granddaddy, we really wanted a lighted world. He said, what do you mean? He said, one that the light glows out and you can see the whole world in that light right there. And he said, well, I tell you what, I'll fix this problem. And he went out and he was talking to his friends afterwards and he's telling them about how his granddaughters just loved the light and they were so happy, man, and it was like the best thing in the world they'd ever gotten. And one of his friends says, well, you know, what did you learn from this? And he said, I learned that a lighted world costs a lot more than a regular one. Now let me tell you something. Everybody here, none of us are perfect. We all fail. We all have victories. But I'm telling you, we've got to shine the light of the gospel. A lighted world costs more. It costs God His Son. It may cost us some inconveniences, but it's sure worth it if we see somebody get saved. You want to see people get saved? Light up the whole place. Light it up. And say, but we're hiding it. We're hiding it. No, maybe we're not in deep sin. Maybe no, we're not up to something. But at the same time, our light is not shining. We're hiding it under the bed. The God of light, Jesus, is our inspiration. Our light should shine brightly in a dark world. I put down at the end here, and we're finished. We've got the first one here. I want you to think, am I hiding or hindering the light in my life? Think about that for a minute. What can I do this week to let my light shine brighter? As the Lord gives me that light, what can I do? And number 3, who can I share the light of the gospel with this week? Who can I illuminate Jesus with this week? Let's bow our heads and stand to our feet. Musicians come.